Hello guys, in today's video we're going to continue the second part of chapter 2 of Can't Fear Your Own World. In this video, we're going to see Shuhei confronted the people who has a strange Ryatsu and talking in front of his motorbike. So without further ado, let's jump on the video. A few men had gathered around that vehicle which Hisagi had gone to the trouble of ordering from the human world after it had undergone reichification. And, he also noticed that these men carry within them a Ryatsu so dense that they could not be mistaken for any ordinary inhabitant of Rukongai. On top of that, the nature of the Ryatsu is different to that of a Shinigami's or Quincies. What? Why is there a Kawasaki Z2 in a place like this? At the words of the man who had swept back hair that extended around his shoulders, the tall figure of a young man who was standing beside him shrugged. Who knows? What stood before the men's eyes is a motorbike originating from the human world and characterized by its deep crimson paintwork. For those who have died and arrived in the Rukongai, the surrounding standards of culture will have caused them to assimilate to the atmosphere, said to range from the Heian era to Edo period. Perhaps it was because of the fact that no major cultural reformation had occurred when compared to the human world, that there are many things which almost causes one to feel its antiquity from the clothes to the buildings, and since coming to Soul Society, they have never seen automobiles of this kind until this very moment. Then, standing behind them, a fellow befitting a gentleman with a black linen eye patch covering his right eye, stared at this motorbike with great interest as he opened his mouth to speak. Regardless of the fact that we are Fullbringers who can manipulate the souls of matter, things that can be brought to this place through Konso are only the clothes and articles that can be said to be part of our person, although, perhaps there is someone who loved two-wheeled vehicles at a level that can only be described as unity of rider and horse. What about such things as gasoline? It's said that Soul Society essentially produces no oil. Apparently, most of whatever becomes fuel in its place is sent around to the technological department or nobles of the Seireitei. So does that mean this motorbike is just some noble's plaything? Listening to these descriptions of Soul Society narrated by the youthful man, the man with the swept back hair clouded his face ever so slightly. From behind him, words that denied such speculation were thrown out to them. I've been saving my wages up to buy that thing. Well, if you want to call it my plaything however, I guess I can't deny that. Turning to look in Hisagi's direction, the newcomer that had just appeared, the man with the swept back hair narrows his eyes in a smiling expression. Oh. I came to check things out after I thought I heard the sound of a motorbike which is rare in these parts, but I would never have guessed that I'd come face to face with a Shinigami as a result. Observing the face of the man who had turned to look at him, Hisagi knit his eyebrows in unease. That face closely resembled the profile of a criminal which, not too long ago, had been circulated many times over among the Gatei 13 as a dangerous character who kills Shinigami. Hisagi has never seen him in person, but his corpse, after being defeated by Ichigo in the human world, happened to exist in Soul Society. Ginjo Kugo, the man who is the first substitute Shinigami, and later estranged, a man who slaughtered a number of Shinigami who were in pursuit of him. The corpse was buried in the human world at the request of Kurosaki Ichigo, but naturally, souls are a different matter. Since they were also human beings who lived in the human world, their souls which had slipped out of their dead bodies would have drifted into the Rukongai. Oh my, this is an honor. I'm surprised that a guy with a lieutenant's armband knows my face. Hisagi's shakusho is sleeveless, but when going out to a public place, he fastens his armband, putting it on display around his exposed arm. In response to Ginjo who smiles boldly, while looking at said armband, Hisagi lowers his voice. I've heard rumors that you didn't fall into the depths of hell, but what are you doing in a place like this? Dear me, you shouldn't glare like that on our first meeting, wouldn't you agree? Have I done something to you? Playing dumb all of a sudden huh? Don't tell me you've forgotten what you did to the Shinigami and Kurosaki. As his eyes narrowed, Hisagi fixed a glare at the man who was once a substitute Shinigami. Then, Ginjo also narrows his eyes once more, smiling fearlessly in Hisagi's direction. So what? Do you mean to say that I should get down on my knees and apologize? For your information, I have an obligation to Kurosaki Ichigo, but I've never planned on becoming a friend to you Shinigami lot, and I don't regret being turned into an enemy. You bastard, what are you planning? Ha! Does it look like I'm planning something? If that's the case, what are you going to do to me? Ginjo laughed scornfully. At the same time, the tall young man who was standing next to him closed the book he was holding and took out a bookmark from its crevice. Stop it, Tsukishima. Are you sure? But he's got a look that says he's going to come at us with a sword any minute now. The man called Tsukishima spoke with a cool visage. Hearing that name, Hisagi heightens his sense of vigilance even more. Tsukishima, if I'm not mistaken, you were the asshole that messed up Kurosaki's past. The man in question, Tsukishima, looked at Hisagi with a cynical smile cast on his face. That's a cruel manner of speaking. The past of the person himself hasn't changed. Oh, although that last time, I helped with a little maintenance on his sword. Unable to comprehend the meaning behind Tsukishima's words, Hisagi looked at him in puzzlement. Having observed the situation, the gentleman with the eye patch opened his mouth to speak as he heaved a sigh. Ginjo-san, it appears he has no knowledge of the fact that the two of you assisted Kurosaki Ichigo. You assisted? Come to think of it, I feel like Renji said something along the lines of there was an unexpected helping hand. Should I have covered what happened there first? During these past 6 months, Hisagi has continued to work his fingers to the bone as acting captain of Squad 9 in place of Muguruma, who was undergoing medical treatment for his zombified state. Therefore, until Muguruma returned, he couldn't get around to conducting detailed interviews. Hisagi regrets his own decision to postpone interviews with those concerned on the mere basis that it could be done at any time. Meanwhile, Ginjo looked bored as he spoke to the gentleman with the eye patch. Assisting him was no big deal. I only paid back a small debt. Watching the three people engage in conversation with their placidity still on show, Hisagi thinks. Can I take all three of these guys down by myself? I don't know this eye patch guy, but he's probably Ginjo's comrade. I'm not sure about his abilities, although I've heard the stories about this other guy from Madarame and Captain Hitsugaya. Having heard the rumors, could it possibly be this very man who is the opponent cut down with a single strike by Zaraki Kenpachi? Hisagi thought as much, but he is not stupid enough to conclude that this man was weak just because Zaraki Kenpachi was able to defeat him in one blow. Because Hisagi knows well that there is not much difference between a wolf and a puppy before the presence known as Kenpachi. However, at any rate, what is before his eyes is the enemy who once butchered members of the Gatei 13. Kurosaki Ichigo may have forgiven them, but this is a different story. As one among the Shinigami, they are by no means opponents that he can overlook. Coming to that conclusion, Hisagi decided that, for now, he would keep the opponent talking whilst tightening his guard in order to probe into their intentions. The Shinigami, Akataki-san, why did you betray them? Then, the darkness that was dwelling at the back of Ginjo's eyes faded away for an instant. He opened his mouth to speak as surprise and amazement intermingled on his face. What a surprise. A Shinigami would ask me that now after such a long time? That's right, I heard that Captain Akataki used a substitute badge to monitor you. Though, was that alone enough to turn every member of the Gatei 13 into an enemy? I'm sure that was unpleasant, but it's merely a matter of objecting against Akataki-san once you've noticed it, don't you think? Once I've noticed it, huh? As Ginjo murmurs that, a silence falls over him for a moment. In the next instant, he broke out into a laugh, as if he had just witnessed a humorous circus trick. Ha, is that so? It doesn't seem like you're trying to play the fool. Does that mean, even at vice captain level, your awareness of the facts only amounts to that much? What are you talking about? I'm saying I finally get it now. I get that you know nothing at all. At that point his smile had disappeared, and he began to fiddle with the cross-shaped pendant that was suspended over his chest. Hisagi sensed some kind of unpleasant reiatsu fluctuating in that pendant. Taking a step back, Hisagi reached his hand to his own Zanpakuto. As they maintained their distance from each other, the air of an explosive situation fills the surroundings. In the next moment, that atmosphere was shattered to pieces by the squeals of a beast and the trembling of the ground. When they turned their attention to the squeals, a huge wild boar as big as a K-car came careening from the direction of a neighboring village before plunging towards the confrontation between Hisagi and Ginjam's group. The wild boar rapidly eased up on its speed in front of them, and as a result, he who was riding on the back of the boar was thrust headfirst into the grassland between Hisagi and Ginjo. The man who had crashed into the ground, whilst issuing a comical shriek, staggered to his feet. He then gave a thumbs up towards the boar he was just riding as he raised his voice. Heh, that's my girl. Your style was so cool today too, Bonnie-chan. As if ignoring the man who had just spoken, the wild boar galloped away in the opposite direction with momentum that was as swift as the wind. With Hisagi watching the sudden comedy routine in round-eyed wonder, the man who had followed the wild boar with his eyes until it was out of sight then turned to face them and began to speak with a high-spirited voice. Hey, hey, hey. What's up with you guys? Is there some kind of trouble here? It's nothing, Ganju. I was just poking a bit of fun at this Shinigami who is ignorant of the ways of the world. Hisagi looked at the stern face of the man who Ginjo had called Ganju. Have you gotten into a dispute with the Shinigami? Geez, I can understand your poor opinion towards the Shinigami, but you don't need to raise a riot. Look, I can't say let bygones be bygones, but it's not cool to all of a sudden go picking fights right in the open. Having heard that, the gentleman with the eye patch inclined his head as he posed a question. Is that so? But in Kukaku Dono's stories, I heard that when you and Kurosaki-san met, you got into a childish scuffle with him. Gah. Big sister talks too much. The man, who had a face identical to the banner-bearing statues Hisagi had seen only a short while earlier, pulled a wry expression after remarking as such. Confronted, beyond a shadow of a doubt, with Shibuganju, the very man he was searching for, Hisagi knit his eyebrows together in bewilderment. I can't tell if your timing is good or bad, you. What's that, you jerk? Oh, if I'm not mistaken, you're the vice captain of some squad, vice captain, Hissa. After an awkward silence, Ganju gives a firm nod, and with the same grin he had flashed towards his wild boar earlier, Ganju presents Hisagi with a thumbs up. Long time no see. Vice captain. Vice captain who is an acquaintance of Kachiki Rukia. Oh come on, it's only one more character. It's Hisagi. Of the 9th Division. Hisagi Shuhei. To the sight of a shouting Hisagi, Ginjo breathed a sigh as he released a pendant from the grip of his fingers. What's this, you guys know each other? Perhaps having confirmed that the tense atmosphere was now completely ruptured, Tsukishima also opens his book once again and turns his attention towards that. Hoi, Shibuganju, what's the meaning of this? Do you and Kukaku-san know what kind of people these guys are? Isn't it a given? Of course we know, these guys are the freeloaders Big Sis found and brought back with her. Freeloaders? While Hisagi was unable to make heads or tails of it, Ginjo and the others were trying to leave this place a step ahead. However, the sharp-sighted Ganju who detected this stops them in their tracks with that enigmatic, overbearing manner of his. Hey, wait a minute. Where are you guys going? I don't know what happened between you and this vice captain brother here, but while I'm still around, I won't allow any fishy grudges between the Shinigami and friends of the Shiba to be left hanging. Faced with Ginjo's group who had turned around, appearing to find the situation irksome, as well as Hisagi who wore a befuddled expression, Ganju spoke sonorously of his solution with a face that was brimming with self-confidence. Don't sweat it, I won't let you down. Leave it up to this self-proclaimed Crimson Bullet of West Rukongai, the #1 self-proclaimed but universally acknowledged boss of West Rukongai for 17 consecutive years. And finally, the self-proclaimed former #1 Shinigami hater, Ganju-sama. Ganju was the only one in high spirits. Unable to decipher how he should respond to the man who had just issued a speech on his puzzling self-introductions towards Ginjo and the others, all of whom were already acquainted with him, Hisagi's eyes closed halfway as he just barely managed to produce a coherent sentence. That last one, it's not exactly necessary to go by that title if it's former, don't you think? And thus the experience of being a Shinigami for many long years causes his mind to procure a sense of foreboding. This is bad. I mean, I'm not being dragged into some troublesome course of events, am I? And this is where we stop the video. Will Shuhei interview Ganju and get some valuable information for his next issue? Well, find out in the part 3 of Can't Fear Your Own World Chapter 2. See you guys in the next video.